from the east on this Tuesday, April 14th, and we start this hour with the Fox News alert. As you can see, the cleanup continues this morning in the tornado-ravaged south portion of this country, where at least 30 people have died.
Tornado! Tornado!
All right, look at the video. It's unbelievable. A family in Mississippi making a life-saving decision to shelter in this concrete room. Looks more like a doorway. It is the only thing left standing in their home. It was wiped out in seconds.
That is amazing. Thank the good Lord they were in there. Water rescues taking place also in Virginia as heavy rain and flooding soaked the East Coast. More than 1 million people did not have power at the height of the storm. And Janice Dean is tracking more severe weather today. Janice?
Good morning, Ainsley, Steve, and Brian. Yes, we have the threat for strong to severe storms across portions of Florida and Georgia. That's because we still have this leftover frontal boundary that will be the focus. Storms. Just want to show you where we typically see the severe weather this time of year. April, May, and June is the height of severe weather season. So as you can see, we've got that highest risk and the greater risk, and then the typical risk that goes across portions of the southeast up towards the mid-Atlantic. So right in the bullseye is where we saw the severe storms, although this one will go down in the record books as one of the worst severe outbreaks for Easter Sunday into Easter Monday, where we had over 80 reports of tornadoes. A long-track tornado in Mississippi was on the ground for over 100 miles. So we're going to see incredible damage as the sun comes up this morning. Now, some of this reached up towards the northeast. We have power outages here across portions of New York up towards New England, with wind gusts in excess of 80 miles per hour for parts of New Jersey, Delaware, New York, Connecticut. Hurricane force wind gusts yesterday, and the power outages, of course, remain in place. As I mentioned, we're still going to see the threat for stronger storms across that boundary, Florida and Georgia, but we also have snow in parts of Texas and the Plain States. So we'll continue to monitor all of that throughout the day today. Steve, Ainsley, Brian, back to you.
All right, Janice, thank you very much. I saw a tweet from the governor of Mississippi that said in his state they thought they had some wind gusts of 200 miles an hour, which is unbelievable. Meanwhile, switching gears, President Trump praising Americans' hard work to flatten the curve and stop COVID-19.
Hospitalizations are slowing in hotspots like New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and Louisiana. Americans are following the guidelines. It's been incredible what they've done.
Case in the U.S. topping 582,000. More than 23,000 people have died. Recoveries, though, 44,000. That's good news.
The president says plans to reopen the economies into their own hands. Hey, Kristen.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Yeah, President Trump. This decision of when to reopen the U.S. economy will be the biggest decision of his entire life. But it's a decision that may not be entirely up to him. Yesterday, governors on both coasts and from both parties announced that they were forming regional pacts to coordinate exactly how their states were going to lift those statewide stay-at-home orders. And so on the East Coast, you have the governors from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Delaware, and Massachusetts. They're working together. And then on the West Coast, you have California, Oregon, and Washington. They've formed the Western States Pact. But President Trump did not seem pleased with those developments at yesterday's briefing. Watch.
When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. With that being said, we're going to work with the states because it's very important. We have local government that hopefully will do a good job. And if they don't do a good job, I'd step in so fast. But no, they can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States.
But remember, it was the governors, not the president, who imposed those statewide stay-at-home orders. And so they believe, and most legal scholars agree, that they, the governors, are the ones that have the rights to lift those statewide stay-at-home orders. Here is New York Governor Andrew Cuomo responding to the president's claims just yesterday.
He did work cooperatively with his state and other states, and that's why I don't understand why you would pivot at this point to this aggressive, hostile suggestion of a total authority of the federal government and abandon the partnership cooperation that he started by praising.
Now, the president did impose those national guidelines, those 30 days to slow the spread. They're ending at the end of April, so President Trump definitely has a big decision to make on that. And, of course, today, President Trump announcing his new task force, the Economic Coronavirus Relief Task Force. He's calling it the Opening Our Country Council. He first announced it on Friday, but we should get something official today. Guys?
A busy day. All right. Kristen Fisher there across the street from the White House. Thank you very much. Let's bring in Charles Payne, host of Making Money on Fox Business. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
You know, regarding this back and forth between the president and some of the governors, today in the pages of the Wall Street Journal on the op-ed page, they write, he, the president, may be right on the legal question if he chooses to override the states, but this is really a political and policy issue, and getting into such a fight would be counterproductive. The president will help the country more and gain more politically. The task force starts today, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm not sure. I guess when it comes to President Trump, particularly in these times, everything becomes this kind of crazy and fight. I think everyone's on the same page with respect to wanting to smartly reopen the economy. Governor Cuomo has said as much in every press conference, and I think this regional idea is not a bad idea. Obviously, they have their own idiosyncrasies. You know, we already have in Europe where countries are coming back online at this very moment. Austria has called it their resurrection, Norway, Denmark, and so we've got something to watch over there as we formulate through governors, through folks who understand these things, through business people, a national plan, but there will have to be individual, individual parts of this plan that apply to individual parts of the world. Let me just tell you guys, I look at the density of these cities, the three hardest hit states. If you look at New York City, you have 27,000 people per square mile. In New York, 11,000 people per square mile. Detroit, 5,000 people per square mile. In Norway, where they're reopening their economy, it's only 36 people per square mile. North Dakota. So you kind of treat these areas a little bit differently, and it's already proven that these places with these heavily dense populations have been devastated.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's why Governor Cuomo said the same thing yesterday, Charles. All right, so Steve Mnuchin was talking yesterday about the relief checks. Many people are getting theirs this week. Listen to this.
Over 80 million hardworking Americans will get the direct deposit by this Wednesday. And we know how important that is to all of those hardworking Americans, many of which are at home not working at the moment. If you do not receive them by Wednesday, on Wednesday we will be launching at irs.gov. Click on irs.gov, go to Get Your Payment.
Charles, what's your reaction to that? You know people getting this, and how are they feeling about getting this money?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of relief, but also just anxiety that for many people they're saying it's just not going to be enough. Obviously, though, at the speed at which Mnuchin and the administration is moving, to be commended. Again, after the Great Recession began and the Obama administration sent out relief checks, it took well over 3 months. So this is happening in lightning speed, but $1,200 per individual, $2,400 per couple, $500 for each additional child. For a lot of people, it's going to help, but it will not be enough. So, again, they're negotiating in D.C. They're haggling over what the next step will be. There will be a phase 4, but this gets us back to the original conversation. When to open the economy in a smart way so that people can, live their lives and sustain their own prosperity.
The other element of it is the small business loans. The money's going out the door, but people seem confused, slow to actually get the money. And the criteria that they've laid out is not which part of small business in America. All they have to do is go in there and redefine the regulation any sign they're going to do that, and specifically the 75-25.
Well, you know what? I reached out to the administration, Brian, on that because you and I show, and it was a big topic on my town hall last week. Right now, there's no. They're saying they're not going to change that. I was shocked, but they said the emphasis with the P. Well, they're saying PPP. The P part of that is payroll. Now, maybe they're going to do something with rent. It's pretty obvious that this is a slippery slope. If you can't pay your rent, then the landlord goes out of business. The building's in trouble. I mean, it is a very slippery slope. Mnuchin and these folks are pretty smart. I think they understand this is a strategic component. So I was surprised. At this moment, there's no plans to change that formula, but I think something else would have to be added to this to help make this safety net really a greater safety net. And then, to your point, millions of people still at risk of losing their jobs because there's no way an employer could keep them on.
Right. The administration, as part of the guidelines, though, has said that if you are a landlord, you can't foreclose on anybody for 90 days past the pandemic. So that, I think, is probably their component. Delayed the whole payment thing.
Still owe the money.
It is a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, Charles, regarding the fact that, the task force is going to start today, it sounds like, and we're going to hear all the names and see who's on it. Ultimately, businesses are already starting to figure out how to do it. I was reading a story today that Whirlpool is trying to figure out how to open. Amazon is trying to figure out how to open. And going forward, when people go to work, whether it's in an office or in a classroom or on a factory floor, things are going to be different until they have a vaccine, because people are simply going to have to be spread out and stay away from each other.
There's no doubt about it. The good thing about that, I've been studying some of these case studies. There's a great one between Minneapolis and St. Paul, where they both, of course, had the Spanish flu at the same time. Minneapolis shut down their entire city quickly. St. Paul didn't. The differences in death rates are startling. But having said that, we already know if you go right now, you'll see where they have marks where you can stand. The social distancing thing will be a critical part of all of this until we get a vaccine. So even when we do reopen the economy, to your point, it's going to look a whole lot different than it does now. But we need to get the wheels of commerce moving again, and every individual business is trying to figure out how to get that done.
Okay, you're right. Thank you, Charles. You can watch Making Money with Charles Payne.
Nice seeing you guys.
Nice seeing you, too. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Business. Today, Charles is going to sit down with Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia. Thank you so much, Charles. Good to see you. All right, let's hand it over to Jillian. She has some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. And let's start with this. Overnight, Joe Biden emerged by former rival Bernie Sanders.
You don't get enough credit, Bernie, for being the voice that forces us to take a hard look in the mirror and ask ourselves, we've done enough, and we haven't. I'm going to need you, not just to win the campaign, but to govern.
The two appearing on a live stream together, the Trump campaign releasing a statement reading in part, though Bernie Sanders won't be on the ballot in November, his issues will be. New cases of COVID-19 aboard the USNS Mercy. Four members on the Naval Hospital ship docked in Los Angeles testing positive for the virus. There are now 7 members infected. Another 120 are in quarantine, but they are tested negative. Navy officials saying hospital operations are not affected, which is treating 20 non-coronavirus patients. Democrats are proposing to release thousands of detained illegal immigrants, calling detention centers a, quote, ticking time bomb amid the outbreak. Under the proposed bill, Immigration and Customs Enforcement would free most of its 34,000 people in custody who do not pose a public risk or have an underlying health condition. ICE reviews every case individually on who can be freed. And do you remember this viral story we brought you of the 93-year-old Pennsylvania woman holding a sign reading, quote, "I need more beer"? Well, this morning, she's got a new sign, and it reads, "Got more beer." Answering her plea, sending 150 cans of beer right to her doorstep. Gotta love that. Put a smile on everyone's face, especially hers. That is awesome. Coors Light.
That is awesome.
That's great. Yeah. 150.
God bless him. I know. If that works, I'm going to put up a sign, "Need more T-bones." Just saying. All right. Thank you very much, Jillian. Meanwhile, it's a first-of-its-kind move in the United States, and it could be a game changer. South Dakota has launched a statewide clinical trial of hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19. That is new. The governor of the state, Kristi Noem, is going to join us next with how it's all working out west.